Welcome to Full Circle. I'm Suzanne McAllister. I'm glad you could be with us today. If you are a small business owner, then you know how difficult it can be at times to run a small business. Here to give us some helpful information, we have the Director of Business Services, Courtney. He is with Prime Trust Financial Federal Credit Union. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
So when you approach your business owners, I understand that you like to have a more consultative approach rather than a transactional one. What does that mean for you?
Well, really what that means, Suzanne, is we look to create a relationship with every member that we have, more of an alternative to a traditional relationship that the business owner may have with their banker. We look to provide them with options to help them find answers to questions that they may have as far as a good CPA firm to work with, and a good attorney to work with in the area. So we like to be able to provide them with additional information besides helping them with a lending issue or a deposit account issue.
So you're really, in some ways, sort of a member of their board of directors, so to speak.
Sure. I mean, we want to be able to provide them with that level of service above and beyond. We try to differentiate ourselves that way. We feel that if we can help them, it only helps us in being able to provide them, again, with the lending needs that they may have.
And we're going to talk about those lending needs, but I want to go back to something you talked about in terms of an attorney and an accountant. Tell me why you think that's so important for small business owners especially to have that kind of a relationship as well.
Well, a lot of times the small business owner may be able to do some of their accounting and their bookwork themselves, but there may be some opportunities there to help them save money in their tax preparations. And those types of things. An attorney will help them with the structure of their business, whether that's an S Corp, an LLC, what works best with their particular situation.
So are there other business professionals that you recommend that small business owners team up with to help them provide that additional level of expertise?
Sure. We also wanted them to be able to have a good relationship with an insurance professional, a financial planning professional, to be able to provide them those services as well. And we try to, again, network with those folks in our area to be able to have confidence in the folks that we're telling our members to go and talk to.
So as a lender, when a small business owner comes and they can establish that they do have those kinds of relationships with outside experts, does that give you a little bit more assurance that perhaps they are a good credit risk?
It does. We really like that because they have someone else looking at their financials. The business owner typically is good at what they do, what their business is. Sometimes they're not so good at the financial aspect of things. They may have some sort of accounting software that they may be able to use, kind of like balancing your checkbook.
Sure.
But above and beyond that, they really don't have an idea of what income statements, profit and loss statements, balance sheets, and those types of things that really let us know that there is some foundation there that we can look at.
And you talked about having being a small business owner, and we talk about them wearing all these different hats. So basically what you're saying is do what you do well, but let the professionals add in and have them do their expertise as well.
Right. I mean, we want to provide them with a one-stop shop. We want to be able to give them that opportunity to do what they do well, because again, we want them to succeed. Obviously, if we're partnering with them and lending them money, we have a vested interest in seeing them succeed.
So let's talk about that lending process. If someone says, gosh, I could use an infusion of cash right now. They came, let's say they came to your office at Prime Trust Financial. How does that process work?
Well, really what we'll do is we'll sit down with them and have a one-on-one conversation. I'll want to sit down and talk to them about what their business is, what markets they have, who are their customers, what does their demographic look like, what does the future look like for their business, and then we'll get into more of looking at their past financials, doing some analyzation of those financials to see where they're at. It also gives us an opportunity to, again, be a more consultative relationship. If I notice something in one of the ways that they're doing things, maybe I can suggest that they use a line of credit as opposed to a credit card. Maybe their accounts receivable is not being managed to a point where we feel like it should be, or their accounts payable is not being managed to a situation that we would like to see. So we can also talk to them about that.
Let's go back to the line of credit versus the credit card, because we always hear the story about the small business owner who maxes out like 5 or 10 credit cards.
Right.
So why might that line of credit be a better idea?
The line of credit really works as a cash infusion, working capital assistance, really. A line of credit allows them to do a job, for example, that they may not have the cash up front to be able to do until they get paid. More and more these days we see longer and longer terms available to our members, where they may have 45 days, 60 days, even 90 days before they're getting paid from their customer.
Sure.
So they need to be able to have some capital available to them to be able to float through that time.
Sure, manage their cash flow. You've mentioned members a few times. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, we'll find out more about Prime Trust Financial in Muncie, Indiana. Don't go away. Welcome back to Full Circle. We're continuing our conversation with Chris Courtney. He's the Director of Business Services at Prime Trust Financial. You are a credit union, a financial credit union, a federal credit union, I should say. What does that mean in terms of what you do versus what a bank does?
Well, in a credit union atmosphere, our customers are members of a cooperative. So they are actually the owners of our credit union. As opposed to a banking institution where you are a client or a customer, you're actually an owner of the credit union.
So who's qualified to become an owner?
Anyone with our situation, we are chartered such that anyone that lives, works, resides, goes to school, or worships in Delaware County can be a member of our credit union. And
that's really changed a lot, hasn't it? It's broadened in terms of who can belong.
We did change our charter back in 2011 to be able to encompass a larger demographic of folks in Delaware County. Previous to that, we were what was called SEG-based or Select Employee Group-based, which meant you needed to work for or be related to someone who worked for one of our member businesses.
So I'm sure that's good news for small business owners who meet the criteria that you just outlined, because as we were talking earlier, it's been kind of hard to get some financing, and they can come to you and find out if they do qualify. What do you recommend when people come for that very first meeting? I know that you talked a little bit about the process, but should they bring certain things with them?
We'll typically be able to give them up front a list of items that we'll want to see. And then we'll go through those as well. Usually some back tax information, some financials, and those types of things. But we'll go over that prior to the meeting. Typically, we'll email those to them and let them know what they'll need to bring in.
Well, we have been through some difficult economic times, and money has not been that easy to obtain. Yeah. Is the environment a little bit different, or are people hearing yes more than no?
Well, I think they are more and more. We do see an increase in the ability to obtain funds for small businesses. We also are fortunate enough to be able to utilize the SBA, Small Business Administration, to help us lend to small business owners as well. Credit unions typically or traditionally have not ventured into the commercial lending, business lending arena. I would say probably within the last 10 to 15 years have they gotten into that. So we provide an alternative really to the traditional banking relationship.
So is there an equation that you follow in terms of revenue versus the amount of money you're willing to give a small business?
There is. I mean, there's a lot of ratios and there's a lot of analysis that we do when we evaluate the amount of money that we're willing to loan to a particular company. And it really is not a whole lot different than what you and I would go through when we go to get a mortgage or go to get a car loan. We're looking at the ratio of income versus the ratio of debt payment. So that's really the biggest thing that one of the biggest things that we look at as well.
Sure, that makes sense. So you've been in this business for a while. I'm curious, what's a big mistake that a potential lendee, I guess would be, does when they come into your office?
Well, one of the things and another reason why we really would like them to be working with a CPA, I like to say your banker and your CPA can be your best friends or your worst enemies. They usually have different agendas. Okay, your CPA is out. He is basically, his goal is to help you saving tax money. Well, that means reducing income or showing that you're reducing income, as opposed to me, who I'm looking for income, because that income there translates into the ability to repay a loan. So those don't work in concert a lot of times. So working together with your CPA, we can come up with a solution that works for both of us.
Well, you've been very helpful in providing this information.
Thank you for having us today.
We're going to put information so that you can contact Prime Trust Financial. The information's up on the screen. I'd like to thank Courtney for joining us. He is the Director of Business Services at Prime Trust Financial. Thanks again.
Thank you.